Welcome to our Remembrance Day program for 2025. We are here today to acknowledge the courage and sacrifice of all of those who have served in Canada's armed forces, especially those who died for our country in wars and military operations. This year's theme is inspired by Private Langford's tombstone, where his parents inscribed the message, "In memory of our darling boy." Today we will focus on the darling boys whom Scona lost over 100 years ago in the First World War.
Before we go any further, please take a moment to turn off and put away your cell phones. And out of respect for those who served and those who died, please remain as quiet and as attentive as possible during today's ceremony. Everyone, please stand now for the marching of the flags and the singing of our national anthem.
Please be seated. At Strathcona High School, we acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps have marked these centuries for territories, a place that has long welcomed people from around the world to make their home here. Today's story takes place on the land of Strathcona, once home to the Papiss-Chase Cree. After the signing of Treaty 6, the Papiss-Chase were moved to reserve land in what is now South Edmonton, with its northern boundary lying not far from where Strathcona High School stands today. The reserve was later dissolved by the federal government, actions that remain deeply contentious. Although opportunity was said to await those who came west, it was not extended equally. As settlers pursued new prospects, Indigenous peoples, including the Papiss-Chase, faced ongoing discrimination and exclusion from opportunities that others readily enjoyed. Yet, despite this, many Indigenous men volunteered to serve Canada during the First World War. Among them was Scona grad Lance Corporal John Inkster, who was killed in action during the Battle of the Somme on September 15, 1916. Like so many Indigenous warriors who served and sacrificed for Canada, John Inkster rests overseas, far from his ancestral land, lest we forget. This year's Remembrance Day program will memorialize Scona grads who fought and died for Canada in the First World War. Please turn your attention to one of the screens while we play a video that focuses on these grads who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Death may come invisible, or in a holy wall of fire, in the breath between the markers, on some black 80 mile. From the madness of the government to the vengeance of the sea, well, everything is eclipsed by the shape of destiny. So love me now. Hell is coming. Yeah, kiss my mouth. Hell is here. Little soldier, little insect, you know war, it has no heart. It will kill you in the sunshine, or happily in the dark, where kindness is a card game, or a bent up cigarette in the trenches in the hard rain, with a bullet and a bat. He says, help me out. Hell is coming. Or could you do it now? Hell is here. See the sterile soil pours in the sky, yellow water, final scraps of life, bringing new tears. Blanket around you, there's nowhere as safe. I'm leaving this place, but there's nothing I'm planning to take. Just you, just you, just you. Just you.
In the next part of our program, we will focus on 8 schooner grads who died fighting for Canada in World War I. On the screen before you, you will see the faces of 8 fallen servicemen, each one representing a story of life, courage, and sacrifice. To the left of each man, you will see what was known as the Dead Man's Penny, a bronze medallion presented by the Canadian government to families who had lost a loved one in the war. To the right, you will see the cap badge that each soldier would have worn on the front of his uniform or hat, symbolizing his battalion. In many cases, if a badge was recovered, it was carefully sent home to the family as one of the few tangible connections to their loved one's service. It is hoped that their specific war stories will help to better understand and appreciate the courage and sacrifice of all Canadians who have served and who still serve in Canada's armed forces. Everyone gathered here today, if you are able, please stand now for the roll call for the fallen. Bazola Akintunde, Sophia Dinsa, and Paige Nguyen will now read and honor the names of our 8 fallen Scona Lords. This is Strathcona High School's Honor Roll for Remembrance Day 2025.
Private Arthur Wilbert Dietz, 4th University Battalion, 3rd Canadian Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Private Lloyd Elson Gaynor, 47th Battalion, 4th Canadian Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Private Norman Robert MacArthur, 49th Battalion, 2nd University Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Private Ray Wilfred Kinsella, 31st Battalion, 2nd Canadian Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Lieutenant Roy Courtney Lutz, 10th Battalion, 1st Canadian Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Lieutenant Robert Jamieson Marion, 54th Squadron, Royal Air Force, fighter pilot.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Private Russell Scobie McAllister, 31st Battalion, 2nd Canadian Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
Corporal Walter Sangster, 102nd Battalion, 4th Canadian Division, Infantry.
Died for Canada.
Mort pour le Canada.
If you are standing, please remain standing. At Strathcona High School, we remember our own because that is who we are. Remembrance Day is about our ideals and what we stand for. It is a time to reflect on the legacy that previous generations have left for us. It is an occasion for solemn contemplation about the cost of war. It is also a time to reflect on what we can do to bring peace to our troubled world.
We are commemorating these 8 fallen Scona Lords today because they gave their lives in service of our nation. These Canadians answered Canada's call to arms. They were all volunteers. They fought out of duty, loyalty, and courage. They endured unimaginable hardship in the hope of a safer and more peaceful world. These Scona soldiers and airmen are part of the proud history of our school, province, and nation, a long history of service, patriotism, and honor. Our fallen should never be forgotten.
Everyone, please remain standing until you're invited to be seated. I will now recite the act of remembrance. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Everyone, please repeat after me. We will remember them. Adrian Friesen will now play the last post, which will be followed by the 2-minute silence and the playing of the rouse. Please remain standing until you are invited to be seated. Everyone, please remain standing for the commitment to remember. I will now recite commitment to remember. They were young, as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them. Everyone, please repeat after me. We will remember them. Ladies and gentlemen, you may now be seated for the rest of the program.
The First World War, which began in 1914, can be more difficult for us to commemorate because historically it wasn't seen as a direct fight for the same democratic freedoms that defined the Second World War. From our modern lens, the reason for going to war may feel distant. But for the people living in that moment, Germany's invasion of Belgium and France represented a grave threat to Europe's stability and to the values they held dear. This context matters. Our contemporary perspective should not diminish the sense of duty, loyalty, and courage shown by the young men who stepped forward to serve their country and community. Their willingness to sacrifice their futures stands as a powerful testament to their commitment and selflessness. To understand the community that these boys come from, it's important to set the scene of early 1900s Strathcona, which at the time was its own city. Alberta was still part of the Northwest Territories and not yet a province. As the fur trade declined, Métis families, Scottish settlers, and newcomers from across North America and Europe came to Strathcona. Many were drawn to the area by the thriving economy that followed the arrival of the Calgary and Edmonton Railway in 1891, which connected the Edmonton region to the Canadian Pacific Railway. Strathcona served as the end of the line until the high-level bridge was completed in 1913, bringing with it a wave of new settlers seeking opportunity. In 1905, Alberta officially became a province of Canada. Our first premier, Alexander Rutherford, a Strathcona resident, named Edmonton the provincial capital. This brought a flurry of growth and optimism to the area, including a strong push for educational institutions. In January 1908, Strathcona Collegiate Institute opened its doors as a high school. The building we're in today was constructed in 1955, but the original school stood in what is now Old Scona Academic. At that time, high school education was not universal. Students attended only if they or their families believed that they were capable of pursuing opportunities beyond farm or trade work. To attend high school was an achievement. To graduate was an even greater one. It's also worth noting that in the same year Strathcona Collegiate Institute opened, the University of Alberta did as well, in the very same building. As Dr. Henry Marshall Troy oversaw the construction of Athabasca Hall to house the new university, classes were temporarily held within the high school. Until Athabasca Hall was completed in 1911, Strathcona Collegiate Institute served a dual purpose, functioning both as a high school and as the first home of the University of Alberta. It was after this period that the school became known as Strathcona High School. In 1912, the city of Strathcona amalgamated with the city of Edmonton, becoming part of what is now known as Old Strathcona in the newly formed South Edmonton. The city was seeing progress. In just a few short years, however, the optimism and ambition that defined Strathcona's early growth would be overshadowed by the outbreak of war in 1914. Many of the young men who had studied in these classrooms, sons, students, neighbors, would soon trade their textbooks for uniforms. They answered the call to serve, leaving behind their families and community to fight in distant fields they had only ever read about. Today, we will be focusing on two men who embodied the community of their time, Norman MacArthur and Russell McAllister. I would like to invite to the stage Megan Kwok to tell her story of university student and Scona grad Norman MacArthur.
Norman was born in Calgary in 1891 to its parents Kate and Duncan MacArthur. His father and mother had moved to Alberta in the 1880s, setting up a homestead near Red Deer Lake. After suffering the loss of his wife Kate and his youngest daughter Ruby to tuberculosis in 1899, Duncan moved his family north to the growing city of Strathcona in search of opportunity, particularly educational opportunity for his children. They settled in a house just off University Avenue and 110th Street, and, as devoted Presbyterians, attended Knox Church along with many of Norman's classmates. It was in this community that Norman grew into a young man. He would have been among Strathcona's earliest graduates. His character wasn't so different from Scona students today. He was well known within his community, academically driven, and passionate about sport. After graduating, Norman enrolled at the University of Alberta to begin a liberal arts degree, which he pursued for 3 years. During that time, he helped lead the university to its first rugby championship in 1914. Quite an achievement, especially given his modest stature. By late 1914, the mood around campus began to change. The call to serve one's country echoed across society, and the university, once filled with students preparing to become doctors, teachers, engineers, and leaders, began to empty. Almost 75% of University of Alberta students would eventually serve in the First World War, many of them former Scona graduates. In May 1915, Norman joined their ranks, enlisting alongside classmates in the 2nd University Company, a unit composed of university students and professors. He trained in Montreal, then shipped overseas to England for further preparation before reaching the front lines. On September 1st, 1915, he landed in France, as ready as anyone could be for such a conflict. From that point on, Norman served with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, stationed in the infamous Ypres salient trenches in Flanders, Belgium, an area that jutted into enemy territory and was under constant attack from 3 sides. During the fall and winter of 1915-16, Norman endured the harsh realities of trench warfare, long stretches in flooded trenches, interrupted by sudden raids, patrol, and relentless shell fire. Between the intensity and the monotony, soldiers often found small ways to occupy themselves. During one such period, Norman and his friends from the university sifted through the rubble of a ruined manor known as the White Chateau. One of them found a piece of wood, which he later hand-carved into a plaque bearing the regiment's emblem. On the back, they engraved the names of the battles they had fought and signed their own, 20 names in all. They dedicated this plaque to a group of women at the University of Alberta who called themselves the Soldiers' Comforts Club. Since women were not permitted to serve on the front lines, they contributed to the war effort in other vital ways, knitting socks, preparing care packages, and writing letters that connected soldiers to home. One remarkable example is a sister of George Lavelle, a Strathcona graduate we commemorate today, who served as a nurse in England, caring for wounded soldiers far from home. Meanwhile, the Comfort Club, led by Edmonton High School alumni Helen Montgomery, ensured that morale in the trenches never wavered. The carved plaque was sent back to Edmonton in late 1915 as a heartfelt token of appreciation from the men overseas. Today, this artifact remains on display in Convocation Hall at the University of Alberta, a lasting reminder of the courage and compassion shown on the home front. As the war dragged on, the Ypres salient came under growing threat. In the early hours of June 2nd, 1916, German forces launched a massive surprise assault on the Canadian positions at Mount Sorel, Hill 62, and Sanctuary Wood. The attack opened with an intense artillery bombardment that devastated the front lines. One general who witnessed the moment described it vividly. It was a calm, beautiful, and noticeably quiet morning. Suddenly, without warning, from a heavenly peaceful sky broke a deafening detonation and a cloud of steel which had no precedent for weight and violence. Every conceivable type of gun, howitzer and trench mortar around Ypres poured everything it had upon the 3rd Divisional front. The most extravagant imagination cannot picture such a downpour of destruction. Even those who had tasted the bitterness of modern warfare were staggered by the violence of this onslaught. On the right flank at Sanctuary Wood, the Princess Pats faced overwhelming enemy fire, yet held their ground with remarkable resolve. By the end of the day, 90% of the Canadian soldiers on the front lines had been killed. Amid the chaos and destruction, Norman was killed. He was 24 years old. His body was never recovered. His commanding officer wrote to the family saying Norman was universally liked and that he died instantly while leading his platoon during a heavy bombardment. Norman MacArthur serves as a reminder of how deeply the war reached into our own community, of how the promise of youth, education, and ambition was interrupted by duty and sacrifice. His story reflects the courage of an entire generation who left their classrooms to serve on distant battlefields, ensuring that their legacy of bravery and commitment would endure long after the guns fell silent. Lest we forget.
The Strathcona Singers will now perform You'll Never Walk Alone. This Broadway song encapsulates the feelings of grief and resilience at the time of loss, one that would have been felt in Strathcona at this time, as community braced for the regretted letter that informed them of a loss of a brother, father, or classmate. Thank you, Strathcona Singers. That was beautiful. Next, I would like to invite Principal Vangenhoven to tell the story of Russell McAllister.
The life and story of Russell McAllister. For children of Scottish immigrants, Canada gave a bountiful life in the 1800s. But by 1900, the McAllister family had left and established Ontario in search of greater opportunity in Alberta. They would settle near Wetaskiwin, where William and Janet McAllister built a successful homestead, which developed into a full-fledged farm, complete with a large farmhouse, dairy cows, pigs, horses, and fields of hay and grain. They also built a family rich in love and personality with 6 beautiful children. Russell was the youngest of the siblings. The McAllisters valued literature, sport, and lively evenings spent playing cards or making music together. Russell became quite a skilled flautist, and he and his brothers and sisters formed the backbone of the local baseball teams. It was said that once the McAllister boys moved north, Wetaskiwin never won anything again. In 1913, seeking greater possibilities, the family moved to Old Strathcona. They invested in local property and built small commercial buildings to rent out. But it wasn't only financial opportunity that motivated them. They wanted their academically gifted children, including Russell, to receive a high school education with the hope that he may one day attend the newly established University of Alberta. They built their home on 7412 105th A Street, which is just over there. And it still stands today, a familiar landmark many of us pass on the way to school. In family photos from those early days, you can see Russell helping to build a chicken coop alongside his older brother Wilfred and sister-in-law Alice. Each morning he walked across White Avenue, dodging streetcars, to reach Strathcona's original building. There he thrived both academically and athletically. His first year of high school, 1913-1914, was a time of optimism in a rapidly growing Edmonton. But the world and Russell's future changed dramatically that summer. Just before Russell's second year began, Britain declared war on Germany, and as part of the British Empire, Canada was drawn in alongside them. Although Canada was increasingly independent, its foreign policy remained tied to Britain, so Canadian men and women found themselves at war. Russell would have watched his brother Dan and members of his school community enlist, starting with the recently graduated young men like Private Archie Bassett and Private William Buckham, who had been in grade 12 during Russell's freshman year. And it is important to remember that conscription did not exist until 1918. Every man who enlisted before then chose to do so. Early in the war, that choice was driven by a powerful sense of nationalism, duty, and loyalty to this young nation and its allies. Recruitment campaigns painted a romantic picture of service, adventure abroad, glory on the battlefield. But by 1916, the realities were impossible to ignore. Russell would have heard the name of Private Archie Bassett read aloud at school, a celebrated Edmonton track champion who died from shrapnel wounds to the head in the brutality of trench warfare. He would have read the letter sent home from the front by his brother Dan. The illusions of war were stripped away. At Knox Presbyterian Church, where his family and many Skona alumni worshiped, Russell listened week after week as the congregation mourned the sons they had already lost. He learned about the horrors of trench warfare as they unfolded. Just days after graduating from Strathcona and looking ahead to a bright academic future, Russell made a decision rooted in courage and conviction by enlisting in the 202nd Sportsmen's Battalion to fight in a land more than 7,000 kilometers away. His close friend, James Hunter from the Knox Church, joined him a month later down in Calgary for basic training. Then they would travel by train to Halifax, spend 2 long weeks at sea before they reached Whitley, England, where Russell prepared for the Western Front and began to form his identity as a soldier. At Whitley Camp, Russell would develop into a prolific letter writer. He would write letters to all of his brothers and sisters, as well as whom he called his ma and pa. He would also maintain a diary through the war, and that diary, a diary that the McAllister family has to this day. But this adjustment to soldier life wasn't that easy. The camp was busy and loud with activity, and at times it hosted over 20,000 soldiers. Accommodation was really basic. Russell would live in a tent with many of his fellow soldiers with little heating. So in wintertime, it was cold and wet. And in his first Christmas in Europe, he would write, "Rowdy, not like Christmas at all." This was the first time that he would have been away from home. He would find his way, though. Socially, he found comfort in sending letters to his friends who were also serving. He also found a love interest with an English girl set up by a fellow soldier. He was introduced to Adela Higson, whom Russell would fall for immediately. Russell would write in his diary about a memorable weekend in England while on leave, where he recollected walking around London with Adela on his arm, seeing the sights like Buckingham Palace and Trafalgar Square, till well into the night. On April 19, 1917, after returning to camp, he writes, he received his first letter from Adela, and it was the best letter I have ever gotten. Love was in the air. On top of that, his brother Dan returned from the front after falling ill with trench fever during the fighting at Vimy Ridge. Sent back to England to recover, he and Russell were finally able to reconnect, find a rare sense of home amid the chaos of war. Militarily, Russell quickly proved himself. Training as a signaler, he learned to maintain vital lines of communication during the battle. Despite shells, mud, and rain, he also trained as a scout, learning how to observe the enemy in the no man's land between the lines, bringing back critical intelligence. In 1917, he joined the 31st Battalion in France, providing reinforcement after Vimy Ridge. There at Etaples, the notorious Bull Ring training camp, he faced a different kind of hardship. Relentless drills, harsh discipline enforced by instructors who had never seen the front. Soldiers described it as brutal and dehumanizing, a place where morale was worn thin and dignity was hard to hold on to. In July, he engaged in the first phase of Passchendaele at the Battle of Hill 70, carrying bombs to the front line. In the battalion's history states that the runners would not restock the front trenches quickly enough. So many bombs were being thrown. The lines endured gas attacks and shelling. Although Russell would make it out alive, his childhood friend from Strathcona, James Hunter, would not. James was killed in action on August 22nd, 1917. Serving alongside his close friend offered Russell a sense of comfort in the disorder of war, which made James's death all the more devastating. Assigned to Company C, Russell entered the front line trenches on October 11th for the second phase of Passchendaele. The trenches were in a deplorable state. Deep mud, standing water everywhere, and within hours of arrival, the Germans launched an offensive that had to be actively repelled. For 3 days, it rained without relief. Men sank to their knees in the mud and often had to sleep standing up to avoid drowning. The first phase of Passchendaele was planned with precision, the soldiers rehearsing their advance on a mock-up battlefield. On November 6, Russell wrote that C Company went over the bags at the break of day, made our objective okay, but we did have casualties. After holding the line, he slipped on a muddy sandbag as the unit was being relieved and injured his knee. The injury sent him behind the lines to recover, where he finally enjoyed his first hot wash in 5 weeks. By Christmas, he had rejoined the 31st Battalion at St. Hilaire, celebrating a 7th-course dinner prepared by the officers in recognition of their endurance. He had also received a package from his sweetheart, Adela. His heart was full. In the next year, in March 1918, the battalion moved south to reinforce the Western Front. The Purple Line trenches were in far better condition, but the situation was more perilous. On March the 21st, the Germans launched a massive spring offensive, overrunning the British lines to the north. It was crucial that the Purple Line held. Preparations began to return to active fighting. Russell's diary fell silent. His final letter home, written to his mom on April the 1st, remained cheerful. He described his days as busy but comfortable. He and two friends had cleaned out a pigsty and were snug and dry in their billet. He mentioned an enormous cat living on the roof, proudly chasing away rats. He warned his mom that he would be very busy in the coming weeks, and so not to worry if the letters stopped. After posting it, the battalion moved forward to support the British troops near the village of Wylie. Wylie was a major artillery position. The British guns fired overhead toward the German batteries, while German shells sought to destroy these same guns. The shelling was relentless, intense, and rain once again consumed the landscape, and the mud returned to knee-deep misery. Sometime on April 6, 1918, Russell was killed in action, likely by a direct hit on the purple-lined trenches. The telegram notifying his family of his death reached Edmonton on April 17th. In early 1921, the McAllister family requested a photograph of Russell's temporary grave marker at the Wally Orchard Cemetery, a fragile link to their son half a world away. When permanent headstones were later placed, they chose this epitaph that honored every day of the life that Russell lived. And this is what it said: 20 years, 9 months, 6 days, son of William and Janet McAllister. A memorial stone was also installed at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery here in Edmonton, where he is also remembered with gentler words: to memory, ever dear. His legacy is maintained through his family. His older brother Wilfred would name his son Russell shortly after the war. His brother Dan, who survived World War I, with his wife Molly, named their firstborn James Russell. In fact, today we are joined by two of Russell's relatives, Scona Grad's Kelty McAllister, now Kelty Coad, and Daniel Neal, son of Joanne McAllister, are here with us today. This photo shows the Russell legacy extended well beyond his own lifetime. Those who loved him and missed him and walked these halls after him, shaping the community that we continue to inherit. We at Scona will never forget our darling boys, and may the life of Russell McAllister be a testament to that, lest we forget.
The Strathcona Senior Wind Ensemble will now perform Albion. This song is an original song created by Scona grad Hannah Shipman, who was last year's recipient for the McEachran Foundation's Veteran Commemorative Scholarship. This original composition, created to encapsulate the mood of the 1940s, honors Scona graduate and World War II veteran Lionel Gauntz by incorporating the song White Cliffs of Dover. The piece showcases how peace is built on sacrifice while inspiring hope that emerges through darkness. We extend our gratitude to Mr. Van Genhoven for his support behind getting Edmonton luminary and professor of music at MacEwan University, Dr. Alan Gilliand, in efficiently arranging this musical piece. Ladies and gentlemen, the debut of Hannah Shipman's Albion by Strathcona Senior Wind Ensemble.
remain seated and attentive until we have finished our closing remarks. On behalf of Principal Vandenhoven, I would like to thank you for participating in the commemoration of our fallen Canadians from the First World War.
And on behalf of Mr. Pendlebury and the Remembrance Day Committee, I would also like to thank everyone who contributed to today's ceremony: speakers, performers, artists, technicians, administrators, teachers, support staff, and planners. A special thanks to our esteemed guest for joining us today, especially to family historian Barb Neal, who's joining us from afar today, whose knowledge and resources helped to bring to life the story of Russell and the McAllisters.
Block 3 starts today at 1:07 p.m. We ask everyone to leave the gym today in a respectful, orderly, and dignified manner. Staff and students, before you head out for your lunch, please fold the chairs and stack them on the carts. Enjoy your lunch break and have a great afternoon. Goodbye, everyone.